YouTube, it's Chris. Welcome back to the channel. It's been about a year since I've done a PC build guide. So here's an updated one to help you guys. If you want to upgrade something or you want to do a brand new build, this will help you out to get the best price for performance without just spending stupid money for no reason. So let's get started with it. As always, on my YouTube page and always in the description, there is a link tree. And click on the link tree, go straight to build guide. Build guide, here's where everything is, and I've fully updated it as of now. We'll start with audio. Now, if you ever want to get into high-end headphones, it's a rabbit hole. And if you want to get into DACs and audio interfaces, it's a rabbit hole. The lowest latency is an audio interface with the ASIO driver, but you cannot use that for general Windows or gaming. You can only use it with a audio workstation with the drivers in there. So the lowest latency is actually an aux or optical cable, believe it or not, straight into your motherboard. If you want to use a USB interface, like a DAC or something like that, some kind of an amplifier system that uses USB for the sound, USB buffering, that is much slower than directly plugging an aux or an optical cable into your motherboard, believe it or not. Now, you do need something like that if you were to draw a headset that's like quite high ohms, so a 250 or 600 ohms. These are not that, so they would plug directly into your motherboard fine, and you would get the lowest latency. But yes, DACs are, or should I say USB audio interfaces, that don't use the ASIO driver, which you can't for gaming anymore anyway, quite a lot higher audio latency. So just look at using, something with an aux jack and go directly into the motherboard, especially for gamers. Now, I've had a lot of different headsets. I've had DT770s, DT990s. I've had a bunch of different DACs, bunch of different audio interfaces. I've had SteelSeries Artist Pro, SteelSeries Artist Nova Pro, the new ones. I've had a bunch of different Astro headsets. I was never really happy. Even with the DT990s, DT770s, even with like, a DAC to amplify it, because I had 250 ohms. I was never happy with them. When I had the PC38X, and obviously I'm speaking from my experience on all of this stuff here, they were the best headphones I've ever had, and I didn't even need a DAC or amp to draw them. I could plug them directly into the motherboard. If you're fine with open back, you want something that's going to get you out of trouble, that has a really good sounding microphone that doesn't pick up any background noise, this is great. Now, this price hasn't come down for about a year, but if you can get a deal on one of these, that would be awesome. But I would still pay if I wanted to go over ears, I'd still pay 180 for these. They're still great. And the great thing about this is the microphone is that great that you don't have to really worry about doing too much. You don't have to go buy an external microphone and do all this stuff. It sounds good enough and much better than any gaming headset I've ever heard before. Now, in-ears have kind of been a game changer for me. I've had lots of different in-ears and I was never happy because they were always very mid and didn't have very good lows or highs. Now, Artist War have recommended these a long time ago, and I've tried to go down the in-ear rabbit hole before and failed because everything that I tried was very mid heavy, and a lot of games I play, their footsteps are low. And for listening to audio as well, it sounds so good. These are great and will get you out of trouble. At least to start, if you wanted to get into the headset audio rabbit hole. So I'd recommend these, and I much prefer in-ears over over-ears because you get a lot more detail in the sound. There's a recommendation just to get you started. Directly into the motherboard, lowest latency. Monitors are a tricky one. OLED has come out now. OLED has the lowest latency that you can get. Did you know that a 240Hz OLED is lower input lag than a 540Hz IPS display? Because OLEDs are organic pixels, the pixels switch instantly, absolutely instantly. So OLED if you can. Unfortunately, there aren't really any eSport OLED monitors that are 1080p. So for the people that prefer to play 1080p on esports games, you're kind of out of luck. We're kind of waiting for that to happen. But yeah, just consider that. Now, as a budget, still the 280Hz tough. I see this go on sale. I've seen it go for like 150 sometimes on Amazon. If you've got kind of a budget build and you're happy you're playing 1080p, this is a much better option over the Zowie monitors. Because it's an IPS and better colors. The Zowies are TN, horrible colors and horrible viewing angles. So I was to go on sale. Now, if you want to kind of go to 1440p, here's a really good budget IPS monitor that's had really good reviews. And this was mentioned to me from a friend Naf, so thank you. I'd recommend this guy here. If you've got more of a medium to high end build and you'll start spending more and enjoy the game more with OLED, I'd really recommend a QD OLED. So you've got WOLED and you've got QD OLED. QD OLED's the new OLED. WOLED has some issues with text not looking that good because it's text fringing because of the subpixel layout, and grays look a bit horrible. Whereas QD OLED, the new OLED, it's great. They fixed a lot of those issues. Now, I was rocking a 360 Hz QD OLED for a while and absolutely loved it. I had the Alienware one. What I will say about the QD and WOLEDs is get whatever's cheaper because they all use the same panel. Whereas IPS and TN panels, they don't have to worry about overdrive timings and they can really screw that up. Like the Alienware 540 Hz 1080p panel is the same latency as the 360 Hz panel because you have to worry about overdrive and, you know, pixel timings and all that. That's how the manufacturers tune them. Because if they tune it too low on a high refresh rate, you get motion blur, which you don't want. So it gets a bit complicated. The OLEDs don't have that issue because it's organic pixels. They switch straight away. So because, like I said, they're all the same panel, just get whatever is cheaper. I have seen some people get the G6 Samsung QD OLED 360 for $450 on sale on Amazon. That is a great deal, something like that. But this is just listed here because it was the cheapest one at the time. Do a bit more research, but this is a great starting point if you're fine with 1440p. It's a shame they don't have any 1080p OLEDs for the pure esport latency guys. But generally speaking, if you have a medium to high end graphics card, there's no point being on 1080p anymore because the cards that we have now are quite powerful. Now I upgraded from, or it feels like a downgrade from something like this to this. This is the current monitor that I'm on at the moment. It's a 480 Hz, but it's actually a WOLED. It's not a QD OLED. So grays are much worse. The text doesn't look quite right. There's text fringing. I'm really unhappy with it. I was much happier on my 360 QD OLED. But if we're talking about pure performance, customizability, this is a really nice panel. I'm kind of stuck on this and I sold my 360 QD OLED, so I'm just going to stick with it. They will eventually come out with like a 500 Hz QD OLED. That would be amazing, but that hasn't happened yet. I don't know how much that's going to be. For a good, I'm going to say 6 months, I mained a 4K 240 OLED and I probably had the best experience ever on that. I really enjoyed that thing, but you do need a really good graphics card to drive it, or you need to be playing older games on a mid-tier graphics card. Otherwise it'd be quite hard to drive the sort of frame rates. But because in Battlefield and Call of Duty, at least with my 4090, I'm only getting 200 frames on 4K versus get up to 400 frames on 1440p. I decided to just stick with 1440p. But yeah, going from QD OLED down to WOLED was a bit of a shame. Anyway, hopefully this can get you out of trouble and point you in the right direction. But with OLEDs, just pick whatever's cheaper because the panels are all made by the same manufacturer. So it doesn't really matter. And you don't have to worry about the overdrive settings because that's not a thing on OLEDs. Recommended peripherals. Speaking about the lowest latency and for gaming and performance, the Wooting is unbeatable. Now, if this is a little bit too much for you and you're happy going down to 1000 Hz, I'd recommend the Wooting 60HE or the 60HE Plus. I believe it might be about $50 cheaper. There's no point mentioning out of the keyboard because these are just the best, and the features on this keyboard it's just insane. For mice, I would recommend the OP18K. It's the lowest latency mouse that you can get. It's quite a nice shape. It is wide though. Now, if you really don't like wide and you want to go for something wireless, I would be looking at brands like Logitech and Razer. They do the best type of latency wireless mice, but here's the problem. Shape is purely subjective, and same with weight. So you need to go with something that you're comfortable with. But if you have no idea and you just want to buy the best of the best, just start this wide. OP18K is a great start for you. As far as controller, Xbox controllers are out of the question. They are locked at 125 Hz polling rate. You cannot overclock that, so it's quite slow. PlayStation controllers are 250 out of the box, 250 Hz polling, and you can overclock them to 1000 Hz polling. So PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 DualSense Edge, which is the PlayStation 5, the new one, PlayStation 5 controller that has paddles in the back of it. You can actually overclock, well, no, that's plug and play. So this thing you can actually plug and play and it's already 1000 Hz. You don't need to overclock it. Now, I see a lot of people do the USB overclock to 8000 Hz. It's pointless. Because what you're actually effectively doing is you're overclocking the USB hub. That's whether the controller or the device accepts it or not, and it doesn't. So it's pointless. But the great thing about this thing is it has paddles already, and it's plug and play. You don't need to worry about the overclocking software. It's already 1000 hertz out of the box. So that's why I'd recommend that. Let's start with budget PC. Now, this is just a really rough guide, guys. But the graphics card market is in shambles, so you're gonna have to bear with me. It's a little bit rough. And Intel's out of the question. The new Intel chips, they are slower than the 13th and 14th gen chips. The 13th and the 14th gen chips have been failing, and Intel had been in scrambles releasing a BIOS update that limits the power to fix the crashing issues. But the ones that didn't fix the issues with all have to be RMA'd. And they're not even well priced. So you're much better on AMD and the AM5 platform because you have future upgrades for many, many more years. So if you got on something like this, you could upgrade your CPU to something much better when you have a bit more money later. Even on this board, like you could put a flagship 9800X3D in it. But let's start with the budget. Now, the 7600X was on the old build list and it hasn't changed in price much. It's only $10 cheaper than the 9600X. Now, there's not a huge performance difference between the two. Effectively, this CPU is just a little bit faster than a 5800X3D, but there's no point even suggesting getting on the old AM platform. For the AM5 platform, you have many upgrades for the future. Now, if you can get a 7600X much cheaper than this, go for it. But at the moment, it was only about $10 cheaper. So you might as well get on the 9600X. Cooler doesn't matter too much. This chip doesn't draw too much power, and you could always upgrade cooler later. If you want to get a cheaper air cooler, go for it. If you want to get something else, go for it. Doesn't bother me. Like I said, it's a rough guy, but something for $50. The Arctic's pretty nice because you can put it in full speed and it's a clean looking cooler. It's not too loud. So it's just $50 to keep the price down because it's a budget build. Now this board, recommended by Hardware Unboxed. It's the cheapest ATX, like full size boards that I could find. It doesn't support PCI 5.0, unfortunately, but that's not really a problem because there's not a huge performance difference between the two. And you would need like a, be on the NVIDIA 5 series GPU to utilize it. So if you really wanted a B650 board that has PCI 5.0 for the same price, it would probably be the Asus TUF. But the problem is that's not a full-size board. It's like an ITX board. So that's why that's not in there. I didn't think that was a big deal. And I would love to recommend an X670E or X870E here, because if you want to run around multiple M2 drives or NVMe drives, you're not going to share lanes and the graphics card won't be stuck in 8 times. But price performance, that's going to be too much. So that's why this board's on here. RAM with AMD, going really high in RAM past this, you're not going to see scaling. AMD you can do 8000 megahertz now at halves the memory controller. I don't want to get too much into AMD's memory controller. It gets a bit complicated, but even AMD have come out, and I've worked on plenty, and I've done plenty of benchmarks and seen a lot of stuff online. This kit is great. And then if you want to do something like BuildZoid's timings on it and push the F clock on the CPU a little bit more, great. You can get a little bit more out of it too, but there's no point spending crazy on RAM kit. And this is only single rank, 2x16 on DDR5 is single rank. You could go dual rank 2x32. That'll be dual rank, but on DDR5, there isn't a huge performance jump at all from going single rank to dual rank. And because this is a budget build, there's no point. This kit will get you out of trouble. As far as SSD, this was just something decently brand that performed well enough that was decently priced. You can change that if you like. It's just a suggestion. Now here we go. GPU prices are a mess. Search for deals or buy used, right? And that's how the market is so bad for graphics cards right now. Maybe even consider using your current GPU, like your older GPU, and using DLSS or FSR. DLSS 4 is pretty good now. You can use DLSS 4 swapper. But if I had to pick a card here, the 9070 from AMD, the one that just came out, or the 5070, the MSRP 550 is pretty good, but that's not what's happening right now. The MSRP isn't 550. So let's say you have something like a 4060 Ti already, or maybe something like a 7800X from AMD, or something better than that. Maybe just consider keeping what you have, because the graphics card market is a shit show right now. I don't want to get too much more into it, but I just have to put you guys in the right direction, or just wait for these to actually be MSRP, if they ever will be. Case, I wanted to pick something that already came with fans that had really, really good cooling and really good ratings. Gamers Nexus do really good case reviews, and this was the best priced best performing case I could find that already had fans, because there are other cases that are pretty good, but they didn't come with fans. So this is really good. Will get you out of trouble. And then as far as power supply, Seasonic 750 Gold, because it has the ATX power supply for the 4 and 5 series NVIDIA cards, that'll get you out of trouble too, and plenty for future upgrades that will get you out of trouble there. So it's a little bit of a mess because the way the GPU market is in shambles right now, but they could get out of trouble. So we're going about roughly 800 before you have your graphics card. So even like if you already have like 4060, or even a 3060 Ti, like my brother-in-law, I just upgraded him from a 1050 in his PC to a 3060 Ti, and I've got him on DLSS 4 on 1080p, and he plays Marvel Rivals and absolutely loves it. He's happy. So you might need to make do in this current market until the market gets any better, if it ever does, with price for performance with the way cards are at the moment. It's a bit of a joke. Now, the recommended all-out PC isn't too much different here, but we've obviously got the flagship 9800X3D. Now, if you can get a 7800X3D way cheaper than this, go for it. It's only 10% slower in a CPU-bound situation. Most of you are going to be GPU-bound anyway. But yeah, there's that. The Arctic Liquid Freezer, the new one, it's unbeatable. There's no cable management. It is plug and play, and you can literally put it in full speed and it's quiet. And it's one of the best performing coolers out there. Really, really nice. Board doesn't matter too much on AMD. There's no point getting a higher end board. Any X670E has the good chipset. It's just as good as X870E. X870E is a waste of money unless you care about USB 4. And for 230 USD, you cannot go wrong with this board. You could chuck this board in and do really heavy overclocks, just as good as any $800 flagship board. You're really wasting your money. Same thing with RAM, exactly the same RAM kit as the budget build. You know, you throw this in, even just the XMP profile would be fine. But, you know, if you want to do anything, I'd probably recommend Buildzoid's timings and the higher F clock. And you have the CPU running really, really well. No point going dual rank. I don't see it worth the money on DDR5 dual rank 2x32. It's just not worth the money. Or even another 2 sticks isn't worth it. So that's why it hasn't changed. Same with the NVMe, hasn't really changed much. Now the graphics cards, it gets real messy. Really, really messy. If you already have something mid to high end, maybe keep it. But I'll read this out. GPU prices are a mess. Search for deal or buy used. And it is literally like that right now. Now in this list here, I've got price for performance in order. Okay. Now 4090 and 5090 for 4K. So if you're playing 4K modern games, you want flagship card 4090 or 5090 if you want really high end frame rates. Now for 1440p ultra settings. So say you're 1440p game, you play everything with ultra and you play ray tracing, you're going to need a flagship card. Okay. If you want really good frame rates. Now, if you're in 1440p, 1080p, and you tend to tweak the settings down, you play low settings comp games. At the moment in this market, 7900 XTX, 4080 Super, or a 5080. Yeah, it's pretty rough, but none of these cards are MSRP at the moment. And at the moment, the 4080 Super is the same price a 4090 was 2 years ago. So the graphics card market is in shambles. But price to performance in this order, even the 7900 XTX, which is faster than the new AMD 9070 XT, should be really cheap, and it's not. So you guys are kind of on your own there. Like I said, GPU prices are a mess. Search for deals or buy used. Same case here. Same power supply, other than it's 1000 watt, because some of you will be drawing a lot more power with some of these cards. So just give you a little bit more headroom. Now, this is all just a rough suggestion, and I wish I could do better here for you guys. Because of the way the graphics card market is, I can't. So I'll always try to keep this build list updated, but for now, that's what we're basically looking at. Now, going back to the budget PC, if you're really strapped with cash or the market doesn't change well at all, maybe look at, if I had to choose, and I couldn't spend that much, and these cards weren't MSRP, maybe a 4060 Ti or a 7800 XT. But yeah, it's the market. It's rough, guys. Anyway, hopefully that gets you guys out of trouble. If any of you guys want your PC optimized or fresh Windows installed, BIOS settings, tune, all that stuff, setting up your game right, stream settings right, I offer a fair priced service. So go check me out. Links are all in the link tree. And quick update for the channel. I'm going to start doing a lot more videos soon. So hopefully you guys enjoy. I have updated GitHub just to let you guys know. So if you're using my ultimate Windows optimization guide, please download the latest. I've done a lot of major fixes and expect to see a lot more game guides soon. And a lot of good stuff in the GitHub game configs. See you guys later. I'm out. Bye.